Hi, everyone. I'm Rena Ninen. Thank you for joining us. An Australian man accused of carrying out mass shootings and leaving 49 people dead at 2 New Zealand mosques appeared in court Saturday. 28-year-old Brenton Tarrant was charged with murder. The judge said that there may be more charges to come. In a manifesto running more than 70 pages, the gunman described himself as a white supremacist and said that he had planned to plead not guilty to any charges. People in New Zealand are mourning the victims of the attack. It was the deadliest shooting in the country since 1990. CBS News foreign correspondent Ben Tracy is in New Zealand with the latest.
Since we arrived here, we have already had so many people tell us that they are honestly in shock that something this horrific could happen in what is generally a small and peaceful place. Now, as for the suspected shooter, in his lengthy manifesto, he says that he plans to plead not guilty, even though he acknowledges that what he's done is a terrorist attack. The suspected gunman, Brenton Tarrant, made his first appearance in a New Zealand courtroom Saturday.
Mr. Tarrant, you are remanded without plea.
With his hands in cuffs, he flashed what's believed to be a white nationalist hand gesture as the judge charged him with murder. 2 other suspects are also in custody.
My father was 71, and the thing is he leaped over somebody to save their life.
Outside the court, Omar Nabi mourned the loss of his father Dawood, who died during the gunman's attack on the Al-Noor Mosque.
Entering a place of prayer to shoot somebody is coward act.
Farid Ahmad made it out alive and described finding piles of bodies, the wounded and the dead.
It was terrible. So many people, some of them were screaming.
Abdul Aziz survived the shooting at Linwood Mosque. He says he chased the gunman down with a weapon that was left behind.
I'm chasing with a gun he set on his car, and I just got that gun and threw on his window like an arrow.
More than 200 miles south of Christchurch, law enforcement searched what is believed to be the shooter's home. The area was evacuated as a precaution, and Australian police say Tarrant's family there is cooperating with investigators. New Zealand's Prime Minister promised new gun control legislation after revealing that all 5 of Tarrant's weapons were purchased legally.
Under that gun licence was able to legally acquire the guns that he held. That will give you an indication of why we need to change our gun laws.
She also met with Muslim leaders in Christchurch and promised to keep them safe.
New Zealand is the support that you are seeing now.
Across Christchurch, New Zealanders made memorials, laying down bouquets and scrawling out messages of unity. This one reads, "They will never win. Choose love."
They are trying to break down the harmony we have in New Zealand. They're not going to win. We will be harmonious.
We were standing on a sidewalk not far from here earlier, and we saw a local man who was reaching out to every Muslim that walked by and said, "Stay strong." So clearly this is a community that is trying to support each other. Ben Tracy, CBS News, Christchurch, New Zealand.
Mary Ellen O'Toole is a former FBI profiler. She joins me now to talk more about how law enforcement investigates an attack like this. Mary Ellen, thank you for joining us. As we move into the days after an attack like this, how does the investigation change?
Well, it will slow down a little bit and begin to become more focused. But again, one of the things investigators will want to determine is, has anyone else helped this person? And how long was it in the planning? And where did he carry out his planning? So, for example, to be able to film this on a GoPro, he'd probably done that before somewhere. So he'd actually practiced that. So they'll want to put all of those pieces together and look at his computer, his phone, and all that type of thing, so that they can really get a very good picture of the full extent of who this person is and where he went to get his information and resources.
What insights can investigators garner from something like this alleged shooter's manifesto?
They can garner a lot, but then at the same time, we know from previous experience with manifestos that these are really kind of a one-man document to try to persuade us, the general public, as to how great they are and the reasons that they feel they have to do this. And at first blush, the writer goes the shooter goes into just a whole assortment of themes about why he's done that. My sense, though, is he's certainly not a historian. He's not a sociologist. So his depth of knowledge in any of these issues is really very limited. But it does give an idea of what his motivation is. And it does give a great insight into his personality. Because you can see, as you read through the manifesto, he gets to the point finally where he says, this is all a problem, but who can do anything about it? Well, only me. And you can see the grandiosity. And then finally he talks about how he'll be in prison 27 years like Mandela, and then he'll get out and have a he'll get a peace prize. So you can see that's very helpful for investigators, just to see the arrogance of this person.
When you profile someone like this who's launched an attack like this that's so deadly, you mentioned Mandela, but in their eyes, do they just see themselves as doing something legit that serves a purpose and that they did nothing wrong?
Probably both. There may come a point in time where he'll realize that, or he'll accept the fact or reconcile to the fact that what he did was horrific, but right now he's not. If he doesn't ever come to accept the fact that what he did was horrific, in other words, have any guilt for what he did, then we're talking about someone who's psychopathic, a personality disorder for people that have no conscience or no remorse or guilt for what they do. That may be the kind of person we're dealing with here, and I say that because based on how he carried out that crime scene. But right now, I'm not really sure. It's really a matter of time to see how he ultimately comes to grip with what his behavior has been.
We know the suspected shooter posted a live stream of the attack. How does law enforcement use that information?
Again, the prosecutor will use that information because it goes to how very cold-blooded this whole event crime was. And it shows how cool and calm and collected that this person is, especially if, at least in the United States, if they were going to propose some kind of a mental illness as a defense. If you see someone who's able to think strategically, reload the weapon, laugh, have his headset on, listening to music. He's not running around. He's not ranting and raving. The jury can see that this is someone that was in complete control of their emotions. So that will work against him.
When you bring it back here domestically in the U.S., we know that the alleged shooter mentions others in his manifesto, including Dylan Roof, who, of course, was responsible for the mass shooting at the church in Charleston. In the wake of New Zealand, do authorities need to be worried about copycats?
They do, and we saw that back in the 1990s when the FBI first started its research on school shootings, that it's called the Werther effect or the contagion effect. It was particularly noted after the death of Marilyn Monroe, but after certain events like suicides and other high-profile events, there does tend to be an increase or a spike, at least in threats, if not actual attempts to carry out shootings. So here in the United States, law enforcement will be definitely on high alert, at least for the next 2 weeks.
Mary Ellen O'Toole, former FBI profiler. Mary Ellen, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.